Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host. This is the third episode in the new series, Narcissistic Recovery. We're still in Thomas Sheridan's book. Somebody else seems to have gotten into it. I see nasty makeup smears on it. Don't know who that could have been. However, the next section in this chapter is entitled, "You have a right to remain human." This may seem like a very dark time in human history. These creatures are almost at their end game of complete domination of global society. But the dam of good old-fashioned love and compassion is building up, and the cracks are already forming in the barrier which these creatures have used to wall up our collective human potential. The unstoppable tsunami of human decency and collective human potential for good is now a perceivable torrent. Creatures know this. That's why they fill our movies, television screens, newspapers, magazines with stories of the most debased and appalling aspects of the human creature, which of course they are the root cause of, in hope that we as humans continue to hate ourselves so that we eventually come to think of this state as the new normal. They continually gaslight and use projection techniques to destroy, or to try to destroy, our personal, social, and community self-image. Sheridan states that for decades, nature documentaries all had the undying subtext that human beings, except for the wealthy big game safari and aristocratic fox hunters, that is, are a danger to the furry animals out there, and we should all hate ourselves as a result. Television shows about merkeet colonies are designed to make you forget having a sense of community, bonding, and closeness with our human neighbors, and these shows seek to replace this with empathy for a TV mercat colony instead, while we sit back and hate ourselves for being these horrible, destructive human beings. When the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, was killing large animals for sport in Africa, it was all known as Big Game Safari. Now, this same absurd individual is one of the leaders of the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, and refers to this practice as illegal poaching when Africans do it. These Africans are forbidden to enter nature reserves, some as large as England and now rebranded as conservation areas, while African cities become more and more crowded. On the other hand, there are the endless shark and other killer animals cable networks which preach another underlying subtext, that these efficient killers and predators are noble and beautiful. A shark is just a shark doing its natural sharky thing, but when it's used as a metaphor for the psychopath / cluster B monster in the context of a TV documentary, then you can see the agenda. They are the ones pushing the kill or be killed notions. Most human beings, this author knows, just want an easy life and not to have to hurt anybody to get it. The next section is the utopian psychopath. Beware of geeks bearing gifts. One psychopathic mainstay that has been with us since the time of Plato's The Republic is the super wealthy but socially inept psychopath who uses its money and family profile to repair or improve the rest of the human race, who do not live up to this creature's notion of what the proper functioning society is. These personality types, from playing with models of buildings and toy people as children, failed to realize that the real people of this world are not made of injection-molded plastic to be placed within model cities of the future. where they will be forced to conform to the utopian grand vision. The utopian psychopathic creature, on his or her mission to save the world while containing the human race within communities of the future, is single-minded in their desire to design and control sci-fi-inspired cities, megalomaniac concepts, and soulless, inhuman, unnatural environments for us to be herded into like cattle or sheep. There we would be numbered and microchipped, all of our comings and goings continuously monitored, studied, and measured in the pursuit of increasingly efficient and cost-effective ways to control us. Agenda 21. We will be expected to relish being totally at the mercy of the machine community, while video cameras inside our homes show the rest of the world what model citizens we have become. We will be kept up to date with the latest medications, which will be injected into us during our chemically induced sleep, so we do not have to bother with developing any kind of old-fashioned natural immune system. All of our earthly imperfections and troublesome individuality will be medicated and routined out of us. Then, upon fulfilling the great work, our utopian psychopath will sit back and lose interest in the perfect society and move on to something else. We will then be left to rot as the infrastructure collapses into neglect and ruin. From Jim Jones's People's Temple in Jonestown, Guyana, to the first 5-year plan of the USSR, to Mao's social political programs such as the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, from the English Enclosure Act of the 12th century to the various planned communities of today, the psychopathic creature hunger is to pen humans in and make them slaves for their utopian grand megalomaniacal visions. If millions are displaced, impoverished, or murdered to make this happen, then so be it. If people's psychological well-being, emotional richness, creative awareness, and individuality can just be turned off by a centrally controlled computer via an implanted microchip, then better still. No more messing about with mass graves and low-level psychopaths doing the whipping and manning of the machine gun towers. Not cost-effective, you see. Next, Thomas Sheridan gives us a word of caution. He says before you run off to become connected up to the central computer with the RFID chip firmly implanted in your forehead or your right hand, you might want to know about somebody who had notions about containing the bacteria known as human beings. The completely insane and psychopathic Irene DuPont, one-time head of General Motors and DuPont Industries. Inspired by Hitler's principles, DuPont obsessed over the aims and policies of National Socialism from the 1920s on. This creature was so enchanted with Hitler's notions of a master race that in September of the year 1926, while addressing the American Chemical Society, it advocated a race of futuristic supermen to be upgraded by injecting DuPont chemicals into them to transform them into improved humans to rule the world. DuPont also used General Motors' money to finance an organization known as the Black Legion to prevent General Motors workers from unionizing, which he saw as a barrier to his chemically enhanced utopian social order. Black Legion members wearing hoods and robes with skull and crossbone motifs firebombed union meetings, sometimes beating shop stewards to death. DuPont gives one perfect insight into the wealthy psychopaths and the lengths that they will go in order to attain their utopian perfections. However, this same mindset can also be seen today among many college professors who have signed up to similar notions of a perfected, trimmed-down humanity. Many of their conferences and talking shops are highly funded, slick events which attract some of the biggest names in politics, media, and science, all of whom enthusiastically pontificate about population reduction and implanting humans with computer RFID chips. Naturally not applicable to them, of course. The often infantile hollering and standing ovations from fawning academics often comes across as completely bizarre. Many of these individuals really do see themselves as a chosen earthly god upon this planet, with every right to make all these decisions that we, the useless eater, Goyim, must live and die by. Their detachment from the sheer inhumanity, spellbinding megalomania of their often surreal proposals to save the world are incredibly elitist and ruthlessly narcissistic, and all done with a cheer and high fives. The issue is not that audiences of these events are all psychopaths, although, he says, some of them most certainly are. Others are brainwashed and research grant-drunk academic proto-psychopaths who have lost the run of themselves. But that many people who are highly educated these days appear to have only learned how to unconditionally defend authority figures and the status quo. This may go some way to explaining the collapse of interest in those formerly studying for science degrees in recent years. What idealistic person today interested in becoming a scientist and lit up with pure fervor of discovery and wonderment would want to hand over their entire working lives to the likes of the military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, or the Rockefeller Foundation? Wisdom and true enlightenment are not part of the mainstream educational journey, and probably never have been. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with a population culling psychopath with a PhD who's spewing platitude-filled word salad. The party line seems to be, he has a PhD, therefore he cannot be argued with. Matters not if he's a crazy megalomaniac. His opinion is akin to law. This is a very unhealthy mindset, as these academics are subject to the same follies and pathologies of all of us, and some will be psychopaths, driven by their own need to be adored in the sanctimonious fiesta of self-righteous, backslapping grandiosity. A highly educated person is not immune from being a psychopath or being an indoctrinated proto-psychopath employed to defend the edicts of infallible science, or more worryingly, social engineering. We shouldn't automatically believe everything we're told to believe by a scientist for no other reason than because they're a scientist. Rather, we should consider all the information presented to us, do our own research, and consider the full range of possibilities. Many of these celebrity scientists who may have expertise in one discipline are increasingly being called upon by the mass media/governments to give their viewpoints on non-scientific issues, and many times with bizarre results. Tom Cruise, Brooke Shields, postpartum depression medicine, such as when Michio Kaku made the incredible and disgraceful accusation during a TV interview that people who question authority and the status quo are terrorists. Mahatma Gandhi, Rosa Parks, Crazy Horse, Monet, and the Impressionist Steve Biko, Mozart, John F. Kennedy, Lech Walesa, and indeed Galileo Galilei would be deemed terrorists, using Michio Kaku's yardstick to quantify who is and isn't a danger to the status quo. Yet the mainstream media let him get away with these shocking comments because they agree wholeheartedly with them. Professor Kaku demonstrates how, when it comes to issues beyond their own expertise, in this case theoretical physics, scientists are the last people we should be listening to. Shio Kaku comes across as a decent man who means well, but when such people are employed as promoters of a psychopathic control system by adding their academic credential weight to the sometimes pernicious agenda, they can be very dangerous, especially if they don't possess the same skills of a true polymath such as the late Carl Sagan, who often cautioned people to be aware of even his own speculation. Science alone does not have all the answers, just as much as religion does not give us all the true wisdom and knowledge, even though more and more we're being encouraged to align ourselves with this concept of scientism as an unquestioned dogma. This my way or the highway approach is a pure pathology and is the benchmark of the psychopathic creature cluster B's totalitarian mindset. Now, Sheridan tells us that he's found, time and time again, most of the cluster B psychopath creatures he's encountered were the most ardent and smug defenders of science, even though these individuals had no real understanding of the scientific principle beyond the what he said level of understanding and insight. Psychopath-slash creatures are lazy. They do not really study. They merely carry around certain books as props to make it look like they're very well learned. Sheridan warns us that the I'm a man/woman of science and truth persona of the psychopath was simply to add some intellectual superiority to the public image. It's done to hide the fact that they're really clueless. He tells us not to allow these creatures in media, government, or in your homes to impose their belief packages on you, whether it's secular or otherwise. It's a sham, a pose, and a dangerous road to travel when proclaiming that every scientist who ever lived is as pure as the driven snow. We should not completely discard the imagery of the quack doctor or the mad scientist either, because these types of people really do exist. He mentions next the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski was accepted into Harvard at the age of 16, where he earned an undergraduate degree, later a PhD in mathematics from the University of Michigan. He became an assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley, at age 25. Then he started making bombs and killing innocent people in order to save the planet. Now, where this gets very interesting is his manifestos are almost identical to the current depopulation fetish among intellectuals and college professors. Ted's population reduction plan was implemented in the immediate hands-on manner, whereas the pontificating psychopathic academics prefer mass sterilization and forced abortions rather than pipe bombs. However, the same psychopathic underlying desire to slaughter humans so their elite educated class can take over this planet and live as gods among the pure nature is what still drives them, as it did the Unabomber. All we humans are, according to these monster people, is nothing more than cheap labor and a future source of fertilizer for their organic Edens. Normal human beings do not have a desire to align the human condition within the social model of the bee or the worker ant. The defining system of management of every utopian concept, including the new towns, brutalistic high-rise public housing of the 1950s and 60s, were all deeply rooted in elite psychopathology and social engineering based on the assumption that most humans, who are not of a certain pedigree of wild animals, are out of control and needing to be locked up in a zoo and watched. All planned communities are an expression of someone else's pathology at some point along the conceptual chain. The utopian psychopath claims to care about nature and then wants to save the world from the impact of humans. What is most telling about this viewpoint is that humans are not considered natural or part of nature by the psychopathic control grid. Nature to them is plants, animals, scenery, and other aristocratic psychopaths with a few select servants. In all their grand utopian vision, the underlying subtext is always, get rid of the humans. The first item on the transhumanist and posthumanist agenda, make us all into slave robots for the psychopathic elite, those they need to serve them in their glorious posthumanist future. Humans have no place in this future techno-psychopathic worldview. We are the plastic toy people who will be thrown into the recycle bin when we've served our usefulness. So the next time some billionaire, aristocrat, or one of their paid-off scientists comes up with an idea to improve the human race and starts pulling out the models of utopian cities and effectively managed societies, ask yourself, who really benefits from this? Them or me and my loved ones? My society? Humanity as a whole? They'll try to ridicule you with statements like, well, some people just still want to believe the earth is flat, which now I'm learning may be the case, but that's a different story. Or, do we go back to living in caves? Do not be intimidated by this type of tactic. Individuals who use such phrases are many times psychopathic or propagandists for psychopaths, putting you in a position where you have to defend your intellect so that any chance of a meaningful debate is destroyed. It's no different than when the psychopath boyfriend remarks,
"You think too much. Now go make my dinner."
Look, honey, you're gonna have to get with the program. Transhumanism is in, which means that little cock of yours, you need to chop it off and become a Virginia. Become a lady like I did. It's not gonna do you any good. In the New World Order, they have no use for little noodles like you. So, do what I did. Come on. Let's march together. Transhumanism is the way.
Hi, I'm here to bring in the transhumanist movement. I am part human, and I am part machine, and I'm beautiful. If you want to be like me, call the number on your screen and we'll tell you how to get there. You can be a male, a female, or a she-male. All it takes is one tiny phone call. Please call now.
Call the number on your screen. You won't regret it.
Yes, I am the Narcopath, and I am just here to tell you, you're going to regret dumping me. No one else will ever have you in the condition you're in. No one else, and you blew it. For leaving me, you deserve what you get, and I hope you get it. You will get it. So, don't come running back to me when she dumps you. You blew it, and it's over, and you deserve it.
We can't all be perfect like you. Sorry, we just can't. I am the Narcopath. This is a special message for one sweet little girl out there. Hi, take a closer look. You remember me? Think back to high school. Remember, you were the only girl on the cheerleading squad that had a kinky boyfriend? Well, honey, here's looking at you. I know that you kind of thought it was weird that I like to play with toys and put them in my bottom. Well, honey, I've got a pussy willow now, so I thought I'd tell you. I know you got a lot of questions. I'm the one that got away, so you thought, except for my strange fetishes about inserting objects into my orifice. Sometimes I figured you probably felt like you were with another girl, except for my 12-inch rod that you used to ride. Well, honey, I'm here to break it all down for you.